Bill Thompson for Outside Insiders. I came down to the ABC this morning to see if I could chat with the Prime Minister as he was appearing on News Brekkie. And while I've been waiting for the PM to emerge from the secure car park, I've been chatting with a delightful couple who were here to see if they could chat with the Prime Minister about climate change. Bill Thompson is my name. Can I ask your name?
Jane Morton. I'm actually the author of this.
Okay.
It's called Don't Mention the Emergency.
All right.
Some people don't like to say that climate is an emergency, but there's eminent scientists all around the world who are saying we actually face an existential threat. Now, some people think existential means something to do with existentialism, but in fact what these very eminent scientists like Hans Schellenhuber from the Potsdam Institute are saying is that we face a risk of the breakdown of human civilization through food shortages, water shortages, conflict and mass migration, and the deaths of billions of people. So I'm here today to try and give this booklet, and there's another one here as well, just summarising the science, again from very eminent scientists all around the world, looking at what's happening with ice melting, Arctic, Antarctic, Greenland, looking at ocean currents slowing down, looking at the tipping points that we actually have already passed. And we may still be able to reverse, but as time goes on, it's getting that bit harder.
Okay, look, we've discussed the views of a range of climate scientists. There are, of course, other climate scientists who don't have such a catastrophic view of the future. Do you agree that people with knowledge of the topics do have alternate views on it?
I believe at the last count it was somewhere around 2%.
Okay, so
papers had the alternative view, and when you look at those, a lot of those actually have been retracted. A lot of those had errors in them, and you're looking at James Hansen, very senior
ex-NASA,
scientist from NASA.
Yeah.
If you're looking at Hans Schellenhuber, founder and former head of Potsdam Institute. If you're looking at the head of the Tyndall Centre in the UK, that's a lot of people saying that it's a very, very serious threat.
Okay.
And even the IPCC, which is usually, quite usually underestimates, says that we actually must take unprecedented action, unprecedented in scale and speed to avert catastrophe. That's what's sometimes referred to as a conservative view. It's a strange view of conservatism because basically it involves consistently underestimating the risk. Now that would be a very strange thing to call conservative. If you consistently underestimated the risk of a bridge falling down or a plane crashing, would that be conservative? I think not.
I recall in 2000 a guy named Dr. David Viner from the University of East Anglia Climate Research Unit reported that global warming was going to result in English children not knowing what snow was. Have you seen any reports from Europe this year about the level of snowfall across Europe and in the UK? Have you seen those reports?
I have indeed. There is unprecedented snow, and that is to do with
that's climate change as well.
The polar vortex is being destabilised. That is the view of scientists. I know that it's very easy for people to be manipulated into the view that because we see some snow, that somehow means that there is no disruption of the climate's weather systems.
Right.
But the essence of the problem there, which is well explained by scientists, is that the polar vortex is becoming wiggly.
I saw the reports.
So what happens is that the snowstorms stall instead of keeping on moving, so they're much heavier, much worse. And that's another consequence also of the slowing of the ocean currents, because the ocean currents take the cold air from the poles
and bring it down
the
equator,
and they take the warm air from the tropics, warm seawater from the tropics, and take it back up to the north. So it's not the case with global warming that you're going to get warmer temperatures everywhere. You're going to get destabilisation of fundamental systems of the Earth. And I think for the average person who is actually risk averse, that is something you probably wouldn't want to be taking a gamble on.
We discussed being
or that it's really not happening. That's the two things. I don't know which one you're.
We discussed being risk averse, and I suggested to you that I regard the expansionary aspects of the communist regime in China as a much more direct and current risk to the Western world than climate change. I acknowledge that the climate is changing. As I said before, 10,000 years ago there was a kilometre of ice across much of the planet, and thank heavens to in some respects for an element of global warming. I don't want to see it going unchecked. I'm perfectly happy to support new technology to offer alternate power generation and the like, but at the stage of technological development at present, I don't see that coal is going to be eliminated as a source of power in the foreseeable future. Some people say 5 years, 10 years. Based on the technology that's now available, recently I saw figures that there is an immense amount of wind and solar capacity in South Australia, but because of weather conditions recently, those two sources were providing only about 2 or 3% of the power usage. Now,
I think the interesting thing is what humans can do when they face an existential threat.
Absolutely.
And so what you saw, say for example, in World War II, when societies believed that they faced an existential threat from Nazi Germany, is that they went from spending 1%, 2% of their GDP on armaments to spending 50%. And that happened over just a very small number of years. Another thing that happened in a very small number of years is that America developed the nuclear bomb.
Right.
Now that happened very fast because society
perceived
recognised
risk
that there was an enormous risk.
Yeah.
So I think what we're seeing at the moment is, well, we're just bumbling along in everyday mode. Ordinary people and politicians do not accept that we face a risk of catastrophe, but I think as people wake up, and they are waking up, to the fact that we risk catastrophe, you will see a lot of those technological obstacles removed. And you mentioned China, that's very interesting, because I think China recognises the threat in some ways more than our own government does. And that's why they're buying up land for food in Africa, Australia, they've got Port of Darwin now. I think that as food shortages and water shortages continue to bite around the world, they're getting ready. We're not. Like we think we're getting ready in case all the refugees come here, but we've got the Murray-Darling drying up right now.
It's a land of flood and droughting, drought and flooding rain.
We think that we might be the ones, the refugees. That we might in mainland Australia.
We might well be.
We're all trying to fit into Tasmania. That's where the scientists are buying up land. In Tasmania and the south of New Zealand.
Yes, there was, of course, a catastrophe movie that showed that scenario of Americans flooding into Mexico to escape the cooling effect up there. Look, just a final question.
More likely, in America, it's more likely a Dust Bowl effect, like the Dust Bowl from the 1930s, except just so much worse that food becomes a real problem. It can become a real problem in Australia, it can become a real problem in America, it's definitely going to become a problem in China.
A question on female representation in Parliament. Can I ask what electorate you live in?
Yep, in Cooper.
Roughly whereabouts?
Jed Carney is our representative.
Okay.
So she is female. And she's actually very good on the climate emergency, which is an interesting thing for a Labor person because they're mostly not. But I think partly because of the very strong feelings of people in the electorate that we want emergency climate action. She has actually supported the declaration of a climate emergency. She's spoken out about the climate emergency in her maiden speech in Parliament, and she has, I think, done quite a bit of work to get the Labor Party to adopt an emergency position. Their position at the moment is very far from that. But anyway, not as far as Scott Morrison, who we're still waiting for.
Okay.
But it doesn't seem to be turning up.
The question of women being pre-selected by the Liberal Party for Parliament, I proposed yesterday to a guest on Insiders that the Liberal Party should approach and discuss with a lady named Cathy Sheriff whether she would be willing to be a candidate in the federal seat of Maribyrnong, which of course is currently occupied by Bill Shorten. Do you have any thoughts on whether a woman should be pre-selected by the Liberal Party in the federal seat of Maribyrnong?
Look, because I'm actually concerned about the risk to our human civilization and about passing tipping points, I basically consider all politics through that lens.
Okay.
So I would like to see the person with the strongest climate policies selected, and I'd like to see the person with the strongest climate policies elected.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we might have to go now.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much for your time. May we shake hands? Okay. Bill Thompson for Outside Insiders.